The Princess and the Weaver. In a faraway kingdom, once there lived a weaver and a chariot maker who were best friends. They had grown up and played together as children and even as adults. They still spent a lot of time together, although they followed different professions. One day, both friends had a holiday because an important festival was being celebrated in the kingdom. A big procession was being taken out in the town where these two friends lived, and they decided that they would join the merrymakers in the procession. They set out eagerly, and as they were cavorting with the dancers and musicians, the crowd suddenly parted to make way for majestic elephant. As the great beast passed, the weaver craned his neck to have a better look at the passenger. It was carrying, seated on the elephant, was the king's daughter, and as the weaver stared at her, his heart began to pound madly. The princess was more beautiful than any girl he had ever seen. She had long, lustrous hair, twinkling dark eyes, and skin that glowed like pearls. What a beautiful princess, the weaver murmured in a daze. Cupid's arrow had found its mark, and as the elephants moved on, the weaver fell to the ground in a faint. His friend, the chariot maker, was very scared when this happened, and he quickly moved the weaver to a quiet corner. He shook him hard and sprinkled some water on the weaver's forehead. But to his dismay, the weaver still did not wake up. Thoroughly frightened by now, the chariot maker rushed his friend to the doctor. After the doctor had administered some strong medicine, the weaver slowly opened his eyes. Thank the Lord! Exclaimed the chariot maker in relief. What happened to you, my friend? The weaver let out a great sigh of anguish. I have been hit by an arrow, he said faintly. An arrow? Exclaimed the shocked chariot maker. How can that be? I was there right next to you, and I did not see an arrow hit you. It was an arrow of love, said the weaver dramatically. The moment I saw the beautiful princess on elephant back, my heart ached for her. But it is of no use. There is no cure for my heartache, and I think it is better that I die. Although I have fallen in love with the princess, I cannot hope to even go near her. So saying, he burst into tears. The chariot maker smiled. Do not worry, my friend, he said. I will help you, for I cannot bear to see you suffer. I have thought of a way by which you will be able to meet the princess today. I know you are trying to cheer me up, but you need not lie to console me, the weaver said mournfully. Just wait and see what I have in mind, the chariot maker replied confidently. But I'll have to spend a few hours at my work table before everything falls into place. He hurried away to his workplace, and for the next few hours he was very busy cutting, sawing, and nailing pieces of wood together. Finally, he summoned the weaver to see what he had created. The chariot maker had fashioned a huge wooden bird that looked exactly like Garuda, the sacred mount of Lord Vishnu. It was a wonderful piece of wood carving, and in its arms it held a conch shell, a lotus blossom, and a mace. As the weaver gaped at it in awe, the chariot maker said, Now you will have to learn to fly this Garuda. It's as easy as driving a chariot. But how is this going to help me? The weaver asked in bewilderment. I am going to dress you as Lord Vishnu, said the chariot maker triumphantly. And when you soar through the air in this wooden Garuda, you'll be able to fly straight to the top floor of the royal palace where the princess has her quarters. And when she sees you, I guarantee she'll welcome you with great joy, for she will believe that Lord Vishnu has come to her. What a clever idea, said the weaver excitedly, embracing the charioteer. After the weaver had learned to fly his wooden Garuda, the chariot maker dressed him up. As the weaver looked at the reflection in the mirror, he could scarcely believe his eyes. He looked splendid, holding Vishnu's personal disc-like weapon, the chakra, in his hand, and wearing a shiny glass stone around his neck, which was supposed to be Lord Vishnu's personal gem, Kastuba. The chariot maker waved his good friend goodbye, and the weaver set off on the Garuda. He flew through the air and soon landed in the palace at the corridor right outside the princess's bedroom. The princess was fast asleep in her bed. The weaver leant over her and said, "My beautiful princess, are you awake?" The princess woke up with a start and rubbed her eyes in astonishment to see Lord Vishnu in her room on his mount Garuda, complete with conch and lotus. She blinked hard to make sure she was not dreaming and then bowed reverently. "Are you really Lord Vishnu?" she asked in a whisper. The weaver smiled slowly in what he felt was a godlike way and said, "Yes, I am Lord Vishnu in an earlier birth. You were Radha and I was Krishna, and we lived together at Vrindavan. I long to be united with you again, and that's why I have come here tonight. You must marry me and make me happy." The princess was astonished to hear this, but happy too. "It will be an honor for me, but I cannot marry you without my father's consent," she said. "Once you get his permission, I will be very happy to be your wife." The weaver was most disconcerted to hear this, but he thought quickly, "How can I speak to your father when I am invisible to everyone but you?" he asked. The princess did not appear convinced by this, and the weaver realized that his big chance could slip away if he did not act soon. He made his expression as stern as possible and said, "If you do not marry me, I will reduce your father and his entire kingdom to ashes. You may disobey one of the gods at your own peril." The poor princess was so nervous to hear this that she immediately agreed to the weaver's request. And so the weaver's dream came true. The beautiful princess became his wife. For several weeks after this, the weaver continued to visit the palace to see the princess during the nights, and in the morning, before dawn broke, he would slip away on his Garuda. One day, as the palace guards were patrolling the grounds outside the princess's room, they heard a man's voice from within. They mentioned this to the king the next morning, and he was very worried when he heard this, and immediately went to the queen. "Find out if there is any truth in what the guards are saying," he told her. "If there is, I will ensure that the man is put to death." The alarmed queen hurried to her daughter's quarters and demanded to know the truth at once. The frightened princess immediately blurted out to her mother the story of how she had secretly married Lord Vishnu. The queen was thrilled to hear this wonderful and extraordinary piece of news and hurried to share it with her husband. "We are truly blessed," she said. "Our daughter has married Vishnu, the preserver of himself, and he visits her every night. He reveals himself only to her, and he'll be coming to see her tonight. Let's hide outside our daughter's room and see if we can catch a glimpse of him." The delighted king agreed to this, and so the royal pair hid themselves as planned and waited. Then around midnight, the king and queen saw an enormous wooden Garuda appear in the sky. Seated in it with his chakra was the great god Vishnu himself. "How fortunate we are," murmured the king joyfully, "that our daughter has married mighty Vishnu." Then another thought struck him. "Now that Vishnu is my son-in-law, I can conquer the world and become the most powerful king." This idea elated him, and from the very next day he set things in motion to achieve this ambition. He mustered his army and attacked all the neighboring countries in the hope of conquering them. But alas, time and again his army was vanquished and had to flee after ignominious defeats. After this had gone on for a while, the king became anxious and sent for his daughter. My dear daughter, he said, I am losing every war that my army fights, even though Lord Vishnu is my son in law. Now it's getting rather embarrassing, so I must ask you to tell your husband to defeat my enemies. That night, when the weaver arrived in the prince's quarters, she told him what her father had said. The weaver was astonished to hear the princess's words, but once more he thought of a way to get out of the tight situation. Tell your father not to worry, he said airily. I will vanquish all his foes in a twinkling. When the king heard this, he was so pleased that he sent costly gifts to his son in law to show his appreciation: fine silks, jewels, and the choicest foods and drinks. The weaver enjoyed all these, but of course he did nothing at all to help the king. Then one day the king's enemies, tried of his unwarranted aggression, attacked his kingdom. Huge armies began to march towards the capital. The terrified king sent for his daughter once more. Our city is soon going to fall because we don't have enough weapons or soldiers to fight the enemy. So now I am going to leave everything in your husband, Lord Vishnu's hands. When the princess repeated these words to the weaver that night, he was very quiet. If the city falls, then I will lose my beautiful princess, he thought sadly, and I just cannot live without her. The only thing I can do to save the situation is to fly out on my wooden Garuda and show myself to the people. Perhaps the sight of me will give the soldiers courage to fight and rout the enemy, and maybe the sight of Lord Vishnu in the sky will frighten the enemy away. I might die in the process, of course, but it's the only chance I have got, and it's worth taking. The weaver instructed the princess to tell the king to array his entire army on the outskirts of the city the next morning, and he, Lord Vishnu, would appear in the sky. The next day, the king did exactly as he was told. As his tired army lined up outside the city and prepared to face the advancing enemy, a wonderful sight greeted them. Lord Vishnu appeared in the sky, seated on Garuda with the chakra in his hand. Meanwhile, the real Lord Vishnu looked down from the heavens and saw the weaver's antics. He chuckled in amusement and told his mount Garuda, Look at that weaver on a wooden bird pretending to be me. I admire his audacity in the face of certain death, but I cannot let him die, for if I do, then everyone will say that Vishnu and Garuda are dead and they will no longer worship us. So let us help the poor weaver. I will enter his body and slay all the enemies converging on the town, and you can enter the form of the wooden bird to help me. And so Garuda entered the wooden bird, and Vishnu became the weaver as the townspeople gasped and stared in wonder. Then, before their amazed eyes, the great god Vishnu sucked all the strength of the enemy armies, causing them to flee in disarray. As the townspeople began to cheer loudly, the weaver looked on in astonishment. He just couldn't believe his eyes. Grinning happily in delight, he flew down into the city square on his wooden bird. Then he stepped out of it, waving. The townspeople immediately recognized him as the common weaver who lived in the city. Hey, weaver, what on earth are you doing? They asked in bewilderment. The weaver was so happy that he told everyone the whole truth, right from what had happened from the time he had seen the princess for the very first time. The king was so pleased all his enemies had been vanquished that he was not at all cross with the weaver. It doesn't matter at all if you're not Vishnu, he said with a smile. I admire your enterprise, and so I will get you married to my daughter in the presence of all the citizens. That's how the weaver won a princess and a kingdom too, all because of a clever plan.